Whipple Family Misadventures Book 3 is not about how much money you make, Chapter 3. The next morning, Wade was sitting in the living room, sipping coffee and waiting for the boys to wake up. It had occurred to him when he had been lying in bed the night before that if they woke up first, they would probably get pretty upset when they came out and found all their new toys had vanished into thin air. Not to mention, he most likely would have been crabby if either of them woke him up and he had to deal with it before he could get any coffee. He had been sitting at the table, but where he usually sat faced the hallway, and sitting there, drinking coffee and waiting for his boys made him feel like a cheesy supervillain from a movie who was about to deliver a monologue before destroying the city. Hence why he moved to the reclining chair in the living room. A slight dusting of glitter in the corner caught his eye, and he sighed. Waiting until morning had been the right choice. It would have been a disaster that probably would have ended in yelling if he tried to deal with it the night before, when his own emotions were running high. Getting some sleep and waiting until he had calmed down and thought things through was a lot better. He still wasn't happy with the situation, but he was no longer actually upset. Another day he might have thought of rousing them himself, but it was currently peaceful and he needed that before disciplining his kids. That was important. He had read that kids needed patience. It also reminded him that they were literal alien kids who were currently experiencing everything Earth had to offer at the rate of almost all of it at once. It hadn't even been 2 months yet, and so much had happened. Of course, they would want to explore, touch, and see as much as possible. It wasn't malicious or like they were looking to get into trouble. They were just being curious kids. If the situation had been reversed, he had been a 10-year-old boy dropped on 100 years into the future, and there were technology beyond his wildest dreams. He would have been no different. To be fully honest, if that had happened to him as an adult, he still probably would have struggled with attempting to control himself and not try everything out all at once. Wade was just wondering if he could sneak in a shower and get dressed before either of them got up when he heard movement. Shadow came out of their bedroom, dragging his feet and rubbing his half-closed eyes. He stopped in front of the table and blinked up at it before his eyes widened.
What happened to our Legos?
We're going to talk about that when your brother gets up. You want to have breakfast while we wait?
Shadow stared at him for several seconds, like he was trying to figure something out.
I don't want cereal. I want toast.
You can have toast.
Wade said, getting up to pour himself another cup of coffee. The toast had just sprung out of the toaster, and Shadow was pulling the stool over to the countertop to grab it, when Silver literally came flying around the corner, a look of panic and worry written across his features.
Dad, someone stole our Legos!
No one stole the Legos. I took them.
Wade said calmly as he leaned against the counter, taking another sip of coffee. The two of them exchanged a short look of horror.
Why?
Do you want some breakfast first?
Silver shook his head twice.
Okay.
Wade went back to the table and waited until both of them sat down. He noticed that Shadow had left his toast in the kitchen, then decided not to comment on that.
The reason I took the Legos is because you two were not supposed to buy those. Also, who bought them and how?
We didn't buy them. It let us have them without money.
No, it didn't.
Identical looks of confusion washed over both their faces.
It didn't ask for any money.
It didn't because I bought things off of that website before, and it already has my credit card information. Those Legos were not free. You still paid money for all of it. You just used my money. And that's why I took the Legos. Because if it was my money that was used to buy it, then they belong to me, and I get to decide what happens to them.
Shadow ducked his head.
Are you mad?
No, I'm not. I'm not happy about this, but I'm not mad. I do, however, want to know how you guys bought almost $2,000 worth of Legos and how you did it so fast.
Is that a lot?
Yes, You know how much 100 is? 2,000 is 20 times of that.
Later, he would find the look on Silver's face funny as his golden eyes widened, but not at the moment.
Was it one or both of you who did this?
Almost immediately, Shadow looked toward Silver, whose ears lowered.
When I had your phone, it showed me something.
When?
After we went shopping a few days ago before dinner.
Thinking back, Wade realized that it had taken the two of them less than 3 minutes to do that, while he was getting dinner on the table. That was quite resourceful, not to mention sneaky. Also, it made him realize on hindsight that he should not have shown them how he did his online shopping, or have left his phone unattended like that.
Okay.
Silver looked down.
And I found Legos, and Shadow helped me find the button that bought them, and we both bought such until you called me for dinner.
I see. Even though I made it clear last time that both of you are not allowed to use my phone without permission, and I did not give you permission for this.
Silver's ears somehow managed to go down even further.
You were showing me that thing.
That was to look at that thing specifically. I didn't say, here, take my phone and do whatever you want when I leave the room. But since you're having trouble with this, I'll go over this again. Silver, you are not allowed to touch my phone or my computer. Shadow, you are not allowed to touch my phone or my computer, ever. You both understand that?
Both of them nodded.
Forever?
I don't know, maybe we'll revisit that later on. But for right now, that's the new rule. No touching my phone or computer at all. Both of you understand that? Any questions?
Are we in trouble?
Yes, you two knew about not touching my phone. We've been through this before, so yes, you both are in trouble.
Wade had done some serious thinking about how he was gonna punish them for this. The main punishment was for using his phone again, especially since they both knew they were not supposed to do that. While ordering the Legos was bad, he had decided neither knew what they were doing on that front. He would just return all the Legos and not keeping any was the punishment for that. So far, in the approximately a month and a half Silver and Shadow had been living with him, he had learned a lot about what they disliked. Funnily enough, so far their least favorite thing was being put in timeout, as last time they both had earned one. Shadow first and then Silver, a bit later, had informed him that both of them were too old for such a thing. They still found themselves in the corner nonetheless, but this was too big of an offense for that. He also didn't want to take away TV privileges for a long period of time because he knew that Melissa spent over 9 hours with them for 5 days a week, and that they usually watched a movie to pass the time. If he took that away, it would be punishing her too, especially doing that for a full 2 weeks. For the same reason, he also wasn't going to ground them from seeing Sonic. They had one friend. Taking that away just seemed mean. Suddenly, he thought of something that would work just as well.
So, all the Legos are going to be sent back. The ones that have already been opened are being donated. To where, I'm not sure. But I think you two can figure that out. We're not keeping any of them. And because you broke the rules about using my phone, when you guys knew better, you both are grounded for the next 2 weeks. No dessert, and you both have a new bedtime. It is now 8 instead of 9. Next time, you two listen to me when I tell you about a rule for something, especially when I said to not touch my phone or computer. I'm not making this up for fun. I don't want either of you to get into something you're not supposed to. If this keeps up, there's going to be more consequences.
He watched as the two of them all but deflated from that recommend.
Do we have to apologize?
Do you think you should?
His ego, that was still annoyed over the fact that they spent so much of his money, wanted to demand that they apologize. But he also knew he didn't want either of them to learn that all they had to do was rattle off an apology like it was a get-out-of-jail-free card.
Remember what we talked about. You'll apologize when you hurt someone intentionally or not. Do you think it hurt me when you broke the rules about taking my phone and spending my money without my permission?
The gray hedgehog glumly nodded.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, Dad.
Sorry for?
They looked at each other again. It was interesting how well they seemed to be able to communicate without even saying a word before Shadow spoke up.
Sorry for not listening and using your phone without permission and spending your money.
Next to him, Silver agreed.
Thank you. Now, before I go to work today, I want you two to come help me take the Legos to the post office to send back. But first,
He held out his arms to Silver.
come here.
There was a short pause, but the gray hedgehog slowly slid off his chair and came to him before being swept up into his arms and hugged tightly.
I still love you very much.
He looked at Shadow.
I love you too. Do you want a hug or not right now?
Wade had learned his own lesson last time, and that was the two of them had gone through some terrible things in the past, and still thought he might change his mind on wanting to keep them, especially when they made mistakes. And that meant he needed to end with a lot of reassurance and love. Another reason why he needed Wade to do this was because he wouldn't have been able to do this the night before. Hopefully, in the future, it would get to the point of them not doubting it anymore. But for now, this was the last important step. He had once heard that a mother's love was supposed to be unconditional, while a father's love was supposed to be conditional, and thought that was awful, and would work his hardest to prove it wrong. He loved both of them dearly, and would make sure they knew it at all times. As soon as Shadow tried to climb on his lap, Wade realized a dining room chair wasn't very ideal for both of them at the same time.
Hold on.
He stood up, walked over to the couch where it didn't feel like either one might fall off at any moment. A second later, he had an official cuddle pile of both of his kids.
Even when I'm not happy with your behavior, I still love you both, and I forgive you too.
His phone pinged and he reached over Silver to take it and look at the text message. It was from Tom, short and right to the point that they had a lot to talk about when he got to work that afternoon. That Eric guy had officially decided he was moving here. Without really thinking about it, Wade tucked the phone back into his robe pocket and went back to cuddling his kids. There would be plenty of time to worry about that guy later.
Are you sure you're not mad at us?
I'm sure I'm not mad, and I forgive you. You guys want to have something for breakfast?
Neither of them looked too eager to get to breakfast, which was fine by him.
Legos are really that expensive? They didn't look like they should cost a lot of money.
Yes, they are, and yeah, Legos are like that. One of the sets you guys bought was worth over $600.
He didn't tell them, but he was extremely grateful that it was one they had not opened. That would have been a bit of a financial blow if he couldn't return that one. Wade leaned back against the cushions. Another day, another mishap, another learning experience in their new situation as a family. Thankfully, one that could be mostly fixed. He was getting the hang of this parenting business and hoped desperately that he was doing a good job and not messing up even more. Learning lessons like being patient and that he could never ever introduce them to Costco. He only hoped that situations like this would become less and less frequent.